Hello, friends, and welcome to Thursday, and welcome to some steamy, dirty, not safe for work broadcasting. Fair warning, because when you cover the Diddy trial, you're going to get something that your kids shouldn't hear, and that's happening tonight. The only thing is, the person on the stand who's delivering this stuff wrote a lot of it herself and is having to read it out loud herself to court. Very awkward, very uncomfortable. But is it very damning to her own testimony from the last 2 days? That is Cassie Ventura, the government's star witness in P. Diddy's sex trafficking and racketeering trial, and all the stuff that she had to say on the stand today was under defense cross-examination. Diddy's lawyers getting a crack at her and flipping the script, right? But did they make a bunch of mistakes? And did they actually help out the table next to them, the prosecutors? It was a really interesting day in court today, I got to tell you. I'm going to lay out a whole bunch of really interesting stuff, especially the fact that, bombshell, it was Cassie Ventura who actually organized the freak-off that happened before that infamous hotel beating video that we've now been so accustomed to seeing. I'll show you all of that in a moment. And then Bryan Kohberger. Holy cow, if you had asked me 2 years ago whether I was about to report something to you that I'm about to report to you, I'd have said, no way. I know you know we've been under a suffocating gag order for 2.5 years. I am not a fan of it. I'm not going to go off on that right now. But something happened in court today that has really blown apart the gag order. You probably saw that incredible 2-hour Dateline NBC report last week where so much never-before-seen evidence was leaked, and Dateline got it. Well, the judge in Kohberger's case is ticked, like really ticked. And there's a lot of scuttlebutt that Kohberger's defense lawyers might just have some serious ammo to get that evidence scrapped from the case. I mean, if that stuff goes, does this guy walk? We're at a precipice here. And it ended up in court today, same place Brian Enton was. He's going to join me live to break it all down. And then what is happening with Justin Bieber? I'm a big Bieber fan. He's Canadian. He actually grew up in my hometown for a period of time and was friends with my niece. And I have watched his career since he was like 13. But he's now 31, and things seem to be spiraling. I mean, there's rumors that he's been broke. How? That he's got a drug problem, that he's losing weight, that he's losing it in front of the paparazzi. I've seen some crazy videos. And that he's really connected to, shall we say, a culty kind of church. But take a look at this little snippet from TMZ, because they are really breaking down what's happening with Justin Bieber.
When you're rolling in dough, all of this doesn't matter that much. When you're broke and you want to start blaming people, that's when it matters. How on earth do you blow through $1 billion?
Wow, $1 billion. Yeah. So I asked that question to Harvey Levin. He's coming up in just a moment on the show. He's going to talk a lot about that special, too. What happened to Justin Bieber? Let's start here, though. If Diddy winds up convicted and sent to prison for all the stuff that we've been hearing about all week, Cassie Ventura may be a big reason why. If he's acquitted and he goes right back to his old life, it is possible that Cassie Ventura will be a big reason why. In day one of Cassie's cross-examination by one of Diddy's own lawyers, his former longtime girlfriend and protege may have just flipped her own script from being forced into days-long drug-fueled freak-offs with male prostitutes and feeling disgusting afterwards, to instead being the architect of those freak-offs, willing and eager to play a part in them. The jurors were shown more than 100 emails and texts between Cassie and Diddy, and they read along on big monitors, but Cassie didn't read along on the monitors. She was told by Diddy's defense lawyer she had to read along out loud. She had to read all the very dirty, kinky, steamy text messages out there for everybody in the courtroom to hear. And trust me when I say they are not safe for work. You almost worry about your broadcast license, honestly, with some of this stuff. So here we go, get the kids out of the room. In a message to Diddy back in 2009, Cassie writes, "When we used to freak off, when we were so in love, there were no questions asked. It felt right, like it literally made sense for the next step in our sex life together. In another message, she says, wish we could have F.O. freak off before you left. My period is over. And then this exchange came out today. It was also from 2009. Diddy says, when do you want to freak off, LOL? Cassie answers, I'm always ready to freak off. 2 days later, Diddy texts, I can't wait to watch you. I want to get real hot. And Cassie replies, me too. I just want it to be uncontrollable. Team Diddy also produced text messages showing Cassie taking the lead in planning that now infamous freak-off at this LA hotel, the Intercontinental Hotel, from back in 2016. Obviously the one that had to end early in a brutal attack in the hallway by Diddy, which was caught on surveillance video. Again, the defense did not downplay the violence in this tape, but they tried to tie the violence instead to jealousy and the couple's drug use, as opposed to coerced sex and freaking off. For instance, Cassie testified that Diddy actually OD'd in 2012. She also testified that he was extremely jealous, which may seem like weird, odd, given the two were, as the defense puts it, swangers. In Cassie's telling, Diddy made her have sex with more than a dozen male escorts while he watched and recorded and pleasured himself right there in the hotel room or the apartment or wherever they were doing it. On the stand yesterday, she named several of her freak-off partners, including a guy called Jules. Cassie says that Jules was the escort from the hotel freak-off that turned so horribly violent in the hallway. And if prosecutors found this Jules guy, and if this Jules guy takes the stand, he could back up Cassie's testimony, right? That she was beaten and coerced as part of a larger criminal enterprise, something that Diddy did from the top and ordered his staff to make happen. Because in the end, honestly, folks, the sleazy details, all the stuff you see in the headlines, yeah, it's good reading, right? But it is not what matters when it comes to a RICO case, racketeering, conspiracy. These are the allegations against Diddy, and that's the stuff that matters. So I unpacked all of this earlier today with my old friend, Harvey Levin from TMZ. Take a look. Harvey, as a lawyer, I'm sure that you are poring over every bit of the testimony in that federal courtroom. I keep seeing huge, sexy, dirty headlines, but I'm more interested in the headlines that prove or disprove racketeering, RICO, and that is kind of like cryptic and arcane stuff. But do you think that the federal prosecutors are actually getting there?
Boy, that's a great question. I don't see it yet. I saw a little bit of it when they started getting into Kid Cudi, when Cassie was dating Kid Cudi, and she made reference to something we've all heard about, which is that Kid Cudi, when he was dating her, his car blew up, and that Diddy is the one who had it done. And she made reference to a car blowing up, but never said Diddy did it. So the loop wasn't closed there. That aside, you know, I know the prosecutors have talked about kidnapping and other ventures. I don't know that these freak-offs are going to resonate with the jury as racketeering. I think that some of them are going to find that a stretch. They may find fraud, or they may find force or coercion, but I don't know that they're going to find that what he does in those hotel rooms and elsewhere constitutes that kind of organized crime activity. Kidnapping, blowing up cars, yeah, if they can prove it. But, you know, I don't know. This one seems to me, all the talk about, you know, the freak-offs, to me, it doesn't resonate with racketeering. It goes to the other charges.
I keep thinking about the hotel video, right, where you see Cassie being beaten to a pulp, and Diddy's already admitted to it on his social media. Everybody thought it was, you know, a clear evidence of domestic assault, but that's not the charge. But what I heard was that there was a male prostitute in the room where she fled, and that male prostitute named Jules could be a corroborating witness that she was trying to escape a coercive freak-off. So that, to me, really stood out as a potential uphill climb for Diddy's lawyers.
I think it's the smoking gun if they can show that. And they haven't obviously called him yet. She is not.
If they found him, right? If they found this
If they found him. They have not said that, well, Cassie has not said that she was escaping the freak-off in that hallway. The defense is saying that confrontation had nothing to do with the freak-off. They're saying it had to do with Cassie seeing something on Diddy's phone that he was involved with another woman, and that she took the phone and he was coming out to get it, which you see him grab a phone.
Yeah.
Now, Cassie testified.
Exactly.
Cassie testified that there were 2 freak-off sessions in that hotel room, and that after the first one, she said, I want to go to a premiere, and wanted to leave, and he attacked her. What I am unclear on is, was that what we were watching in the hotel, in the hallway, or was there an attack, an alleged attack, inside the room? If it was inside the room and this guy Jules testifies, that's going to be damning evidence against Diddy. But we just haven't seen him close the loop on it.
I'm getting the impression the black eye happened in the hotel room, and the fat lip that she said she also got happened out in the hallway. But more importantly, the phone issue, right? She testified that, look, she didn't even have to testify to this. It was on video that she is beaten to a pulp, and Diddy grabs all of her things and leaves her in a slump in the hallway and goes back to the room. And then he returns to her, slumped in the hotel room with no bags. What was the reason? If Diddy's purpose was only to go and retrieve that phone that he says he chased her down, it was a battle over the phone, then why did he come back to her? Once he'd gotten all the material, taken it back to the hotel room, dropped those bags, he came back to her slumped frame with no bags in his hand. What was the reason?
I think it's a really good point. Now, they are saying that he was coming off, he was withdrawing from drugs and he was blacking out and all of that. So I don't know. You know, Ashleigh, the thing that has really confused me, because there's a lot of evidence of domestic violence, and you know, the jury, it probably hates him at this point because what he did was monstrous. But this is not a domestic violence case. When it comes to these freak-offs, at least in terms of one of the charges, which is the main reason Cassie's there, they have to show some kind of force or coercion. I haven't seen the prosecution close the loop on that outside of what you just said in the hallway, because all of the other stuff, when they talk about, well, he was trying to extort her by saying, well, release the freak-off videos. That wasn't in connection with doing a freak-off. That was, he thought she was stealing drugs on the yacht in Cannes, or she's dating the man she's now married to, Alex Fine, and he was jealous. But it's not about these freak-offs. At least they haven't closed that loop.
Oh, I feel like it's closing. I think the forced coercion.
When you read that,
if Jules can be found and get up on the stand, the forced coercion of that sex. If she said, "I'm out of here, I want out," and ran in bare feet, there's your forced coercion.
I agree with you. But when you look at all the other stuff that she's already testified to, when you read it carefully, when she's talking about, he showed me on the airplane trip back from France to New York, he showed me this freak-off video and said, I may release it. But it seemed to be in connection to the drug thing, that he thought she was stealing drugs. And then, you know, she lands in New York with him. And then later, the next day, he says, let's go to dinner. They go to dinner, and he says, I want to do a freak-off. And she says, fine. And then they say, well, why'd you do it? And she said, well, I was afraid he'd threaten me again. But he didn't. And so then the question is, how do you tie that, the extortion?
So let's get rid of the extortion. Okay, let's get rid of the extortion. I'm going to bring in bribery, because there's another predicate act for RICO, yeah? And so if the hotel security guard who filmed that notorious video, right? He filmed it off that he wanted to show his wife, so that's why we have it. If that hotel security guard was telling the truth, and that Cassie's, testimony was that Diddy hands him a stack of money, that I think he said it went from the pinky to the thumb, a stack of money, and said the words, "Keep this quiet, clean it up. I don't want to see this anywhere." There's your bribery. There's your obstruction of justice in connection to that freak off and that abuse.
Can I sound like an old man for just a minute?
Please do. It'll make me feel younger.
There you go. So a long, long time ago, there was a very famous lawyer named Melvin Belli. And he was a great civil lawyer, bombastic and very effective. He had a case once where a man lost his leg in a car accident. And the man got up on the stand, and he was wearing pants all the way down to his shoes. And at one point, Melvin Belli said, "Please come down and face the jury." And he had the guy roll up his pant leg so the jury could see the stump. And they were horrified. And then he immediately put the pant leg down and never showed it again. And it's called demonstrative evidence. And the idea is you don't keep showing a jury something so they get used to it. I saw this in the Rodney King case. I covered that every day. And they showed it way too much. And the media showed it for a year. And it lost its impact by the time the jury deliberated. I think prosecutors are showing that hallway video too much. And I think that the impact it had, think about it, when you first saw it, now you know what it is. And the more you see it, the more you get used to it. It's still horrific, but it's such a basic principle. I don't understand why they keep showing it.
Unless you want that jury to think it's normal for him to beat her up. I hate him. I will not give him the benefit of the doubt. I always think that's an underlying strategy. Just make them hate your client no matter what.
But look, you show it once and it works. So I just think you diminish the impact.
My great thanks again to Harvey Levin. And Harvey's going to be back a little later in the show to talk about what TMZ has discovered about Justin Bieber. And as always, we reached out to Sean Combs' attorneys, and we requested a statement from them today, but we haven't heard back. Again, very busy when you are in trial, so I didn't expect to anyway. Still to come, Bryan Kohberger back in court today for one of his final pre-trial hearings. Oh my God, this trial's getting close. But he was not the only person on the hot seat. It turns out the judge is furious about last week's barrage of never-before-seen evidence that showed up on NBC's Dateline. You know, the stuff the gag order was meant to prevent? Is it possible the case against Kohberger could actually take a hit because of it? Our Brian Enton was in court, and he joins me live after a break. Before you know it, August 11th is going to be upon us. Day one of Bryan Kohberger's quadruple murder trial in Idaho. And the planning is now down to the nitty-gritty. How many jurors are they going to pick? What time is court going to start? What time is court going to end? How many seats will be allotted and to whom? You know, the technical stuff, you got to do it. All of it came up today in one of the final pre-trial hearings, along with Team Kohberger's theory that somebody else killed those 4 students at 1122 King Road. Somebody else. They call them alternate perpetrators. And the judge set a hearing for next month to decide if Kohberger really has enough hard evidence to chase down that theory at trial. And ordinarily, I would be all over this, but not tonight. Because there was something else that happened. And the big news tonight is what Dateline NBC actually reported last week. All that never-before-seen evidence in the case. A massive leak. The judge in the case is steaming mad because, as you know, there is a gag order that's been in place since the start of the case. Leaks like this were not supposed to happen. But Dateline got its hands on selfies of the defendant in a black hoodie after the murders and cell phone records putting him near the scene and home security video of suspect vehicle 1, a white car circling the block repeatedly. the night the 4 students were killed. And now the judge, mad, is ordering police and prosecutors to preserve any and all communications with outside parties for a potential investigation by a special prosecutor.
As I indicated, I would be open to a request for a appointment of a special prosecutor, and that special prosecutor to ask for a magistrate inquiry so they have the power of subpoena and the power to question witnesses under oath, as well as the power to grant immunity.
Big question now, is it possible that all of that evidence, even just some of it, might be excluded from the trial as a way to right the wrong of the massive leak? NewsNation's senior national correspondent Brian Enton has been on this case from day one and was in that courtroom today, and he's with me now live. Brian, I shudder. I absolutely shudder at the thought that journalism may be a reason that evidence that is so compelling could be pulled from a trial. Was there any discussion about that today?
No, and it's hard to imagine that they would just pull the evidence. I think it's going to make jury selection harder because you've got a lot of people who saw the Dateline episode or have now seen all that evidence that wasn't supposed to be made public. But you made a good point. I mean, Judge Hippler was angry. It was obvious when I was inside the courtroom. He talked about the possibility of a special prosecutor. That is someone to come in and investigate and possibly prosecute and charge someone who's responsible for the leaks. But he didn't bring up Dateline in the courtroom. He didn't say the words Dateline. What happened is after court, suddenly there was a new filing that popped up almost immediately, and it was from the judge. And that's where he addressed the Dateline issue and said, this Dateline episode aired, there was a big leak. And then he started to name all the different agencies and all of the evidence and how he wanted all of that to be preserved. Text messages between police officers, phone calls, so that they can get to the bottom of where the leak came from.
Yeah, for me, again, this is another reason that gag orders are not a good idea. I get why. I just think that they're really fast and loose with gag orders nowadays. I feel like I heard something about Judge Hippler adding 2 more alternate jurors, like worried that, you know, it's going to get so bad that they're going to have to boot jurors left and right.
Yeah, and he seemed to blame that on Dateline in court. Again, he didn't say Dateline, but he said something like, because of what happened last Friday, I think we need to add 2 more alternate jurors. So he is clearly peeved about this Dateline episode. They've been so careful with this gag order and all of these secret hearings. The fact that all of this got out, I mean, a lot of information and visuals, he seems like he wants to get to the bottom of it.
Okay, let's talk about the alternate suspect theory. I have been fascinated by the defense and the suggestion that somebody else must have committed these killings. You can't just come into court and start throwing names out there. I mean, innocent people could be caught up in your effort to clear your guy, right? So where are we with that? And also, is it alternate suspect or alternate suspects, plural?
So I'm told that it's I keep forgetting. I keep having a hard time saying it. Alternate suspects, plural. Alternate suspects. I have a hard time saying alternate. Instead of just one person. But it's been sealed. But the motion has been sealed. It was filed yesterday. The judge today said he's keeping it secret for good reason, like you said. I mean, you know, they started throwing these names around. The only person who's been charged is Brian Kohberger. But the judge was clear that he wants to see evidence rather than allegations, almost making it sound like the filing from the defense wasn't really beefy enough. Listen to what he said in court, Ashleigh.
1, provide me with whatever actual evidence you have that supports those allegations, rather than just allegations. And 2, provide for me how it is you believe that what you are offering is admissible.
So alternative perpetrators, that's what he's talking about. I was actually able to say at that time. And so basically now he's told the defense, you need to beef up your motion. We're going to have a hearing about it in June. It'll probably obviously be in secret. And they'll kind of go from there. And he'll decide whether they can come into trial. That's the whole thing. Will they be allowed to bring it up, you know, during the trial?
And secret, because you don't want to just, again, throw those names out there and ruin people's lives. Okay, so real quickly, I got to get this in. I got like 10 seconds left. Dylan and Bethany, the surviving roommates, there was some ruling today about whether we're going to be able to see them testify. Tell me what happened.
So they will not be on video. The judge considers them victims, which they are. So we'll be able to hear their voices. The audio will be broadcast, not the video. The good news for all of us following the trial and people who can't be here, the trial will be live streamed. He said it officially today. They're going to put out a live stream. So, you know, we'll get the same video elements that we've been getting for all the hearings.
Very helpful, and it sure does stop the big guessing game on the internet. So I appreciate that from Judge Hippler, and I appreciate your work. Thank you, Brian Enton. Brian's going to continue doing a lot of this coverage for us. He's going to be every single day on this case as well. Coming up next, is Justin Bieber okay? Like, I mean, is he okay, really okay? He's not a kid anymore, and it's always shocking to hear that he's now past 30. But a rash of bizarre behavior, rumors that his marriage is on the rocks, and reports that he's actually flat broke prompted TMZ to dive headfirst into all things Bieber for a wellness check. I talked to Harvey Levin about what they learned and whether or not we should all be worried about Biebs. Our conversation next. When it comes to Justin Bieber, I'll admit I only dabble in his universe, but I'm starting to hear more and more about him lately, and what I'm hearing ain't good. His fans and others are getting increasingly worried about his behavior and his choices. The chances are you saw this clip go viral on your feeds.
That's all you care about? Money? That's all you care about, guys. It's money. You don't care about people. Only money. Only money.
That was that was last week in Palm Springs. There's really no word on what it was that set him off other than cameras. And while it's certainly not the first batshit crazy celebrity video, Bieber can't chalk it up to youth and fame and money anymore because the Biebs is now 31 years old, and he's been at this game more than half of his life. He's also a husband and a father. What no one seems to know for sure is whether he's playing up the crazy for clicks or if he's actually spiraling. Case in point, Bieber holding a bong and smoking something rolled up in paper at a recording session in Iceland. There are rumors about his marriage, that it's kaput, and that he's tangled up in a controversial church that seems to be more like a cult. And that money that I mentioned, that he also mentioned in that clip, if you believe the internet, it is gone. Or it was gone until he sold his most valuable asset. TMZ just dropped a new investigative special called What Happened to Justin Bieber that looks into all of this.
It's not cheap to be the biggest pop star in the world. He is the biggest pop star in the world. Of course he has to charter jets. Of course he has mega mansions.
How on earth do you blow through $1 billion?
It's a really good question. And earlier today, I talked with TMZ's boss, who you just saw, Harvey Levin. So Harvey, what is happening with Justin Bieber?
A lot. So, look, he has really made no secret of the fact he is having mental health struggles. He's talked about it. But it has at times been really severe. You know, his marriage has had real issues over the last few years. And we kind of get into that. I think they're in a really good place now, or a good place. But it has been rocky to a point where we're told, Haley at one point told her mom, I just can't do this anymore. But it seems to all gravitate, Ashleigh, around money. That, as crazy as this sounds, Justin Bieber made up to $1 billion in his career.
Billion with a B.
With a B.
Wow.
In 2022, he was broke. So broke, we're told he borrowed one of his friend's credit cards to play golf. He was broke. And what happened was he had this tour in 2022, the Justice Tour. And during that tour, he just didn't want to do it anymore. He got sick early on, and he just pulled the plug. And he had gotten a huge advance from AEG, which was promoting it, of $40 million. When he pulled the plug, AEG said, we want $24 million back from you because you didn't complete the tour. He didn't have the money. So Scooter Braun, who was his manager, longtime manager, said, look, my company will assume that debt, but Justin, you got to pay me back over 10 years. Well, that started things. So Justin's business manager went to Justin and said, Scooter Braun has screwed you out of a lot of money, $26 million, we think, by charging for commissions he didn't really earn. And Justin was furious and ultimately fired Scooter. But Scooter's company did an audit with an independent company, Price Waterhouse, which does the Oscars.
Yeah, well known.
It was a 6-month audit, and it came back last month. We've seen this audit. It shows Scooter does not owe Justin any money. Justin owes Scooter over $8 million.
The fans, obviously, there's the super fans, there's the casual fans, but you can't escape, seeing something about Justin Bieber. I think on my feed the other day, I saw something about Justin freaking out on some fans who were rolling video. It looked like a resort of some kind.
No, it was paparazzi. Was it
paparazzi?
Yeah.
But it just did not look like a person who was stable or grounded, and certainly didn't look like a person who's been in front of the cameras for the better part of 20 years. What was that about?
Well, look, he has been going through it. And, I don't know what happened on that day. We're told that Justin goes up and down, in a snap. So, yeah, he went off on them. And look, in fairness to Justin, at a point, there are camera people who have chased him down on the freeway, and it has been his life. And, he's sick of it. And it may have just been he was at Coachella, and that's when it happened, and he snapped. Look, I don't know if it's deeper than that in that instance. I do know that there have just been some mental health struggles that he has been very, very open about.
It just pains me to hear this because I think about all the, the teen stars, Britney Spears, for one, who just had the weight of the world on them from a time that they were incapable of processing it or putting it into perspective. And it feels as though it's a pretty predictable formula to see what hyper fame does to young people, if not soon, later.
I agree with you, and I've talked to some psychologists about this. And to me, when you hear it, it's really obvious. Justin Bieber was 13 years old when he became a superstar. Justin Bieber never was able to grow as a child into an adult. Because think about when you were 13 and how you developed when you were, 15 and 17 and 19 and 21. At 13, Justin was thrust into this adult world where he didn't grow. He just was part of this adult world as a 13-year-old kid with no ability to develop the way kids normally develop. He was robbed of that by his success. And it should be no surprise when you think about how that can mess with your mind, that suddenly all you're around are adults. You have an adult life. You have adult responsibilities. You don't grow the way kids grow. And when you think of it that way, it just seems so basic because you can think of yourself and just think, wow, if at 13, I just all of a sudden became an adult, what would you be like today?
Harvey and I are going to continue that conversation tomorrow. But in the meantime, do yourself a favor and check out TMZ Investigates. What happened to Justin Bieber? It is streaming now on Hulu. And still to come tonight, a New York woman is murdered in 1989, and suspicions fell on Joel Rifkin, a serial killer. After all, Rifkin admitted to 17 murders. But he always denied this one. And now 36 years later, we're learning he may have been telling the truth. But how often do you mistake the handiwork of one serial killer for the handiwork of another serial killer? And how often are they operating in the very same place? After the break, how the Long Island serial killer may soon have another victim on his ledger. It's our True Crime Rewind, and it's next. For 3 decades, the family of Carmen Vargas believed that she was the victim of a serial killer named Joel Rifkin, and for good reason. In May of 1994, 31 years ago this month, Joel the Ripper, as some people called him, was convicted of murdering 9 women, though he claimed to have killed as many as 17. His victims were found in and around New York City, including Long Island, not far from where Carmen's remains were found in the town of Freeport. But when Rifkin was asked directly whether Carmen Vargas was one of his 17 victims, he was emphatic. No. And her family just couldn't understand why he wouldn't cop to it, because the pieces all seemed to fit so nicely. But then, in the summer of 2023, news broke that shook Carmen's family to the core. It was the arrest of Rex Heuermann and headlines that alleged he was the Long Island serial killer, a man who's now charged with killing 7 women between 1993 and 2010. Carmen's body was discovered just 8 miles from Rex Heuermann's house. And Carmen, like Heuermann's other alleged victims, was a sex worker with a petite build. Was it possible that Carmen's family was focused on the wrong serial killer? And if Rex Heuermann is guilty of any of these killings, did the killing spree start much earlier than investigators have thought? Here's more on that from our NewsNation affiliate, WPIX.
It's bothering me. Like, I don't eat.
Felicita Figueroa was the last person to see her Aunt Carmen alive when the 29-year-old woman got into some kind of truck at the corner of 106th Street and Lexington Avenue in the summer of 1989.
She got in a dark car. Like, I was only 12 years old, so I couldn't really see, but I could tell it was a white man, and I seen, like, glasses.
On September 11, 1989, a motorist discovered the body of Carmen Vargas, clad in a tube-top miniskirt and tied at the ankles, south of Merrick Road on the Meadowbrook. She had a rope and towel around her neck, but wasn't identified for 3 years.
Always, for me, location is the most important factor. It's far more important than MO.
This online writer, who publishes a regular column called Murder Incorporated using a pseudonym, said Heuermann had ties to Freeport and also noted that the Meadowbrook Parkway leads to Jones Beach, where Heuermann was a seasonal worker in the 80s. The accused Gilgo killer lived 8 miles from where Vargas was discovered. Her family gave dental records to a Nassau detective in 1992.
She's missing 1, 2, 3 teeth. He said that whatever happened to her, she fought that night because 3 of her teeth were knocked out.
Rex Heuermann is the prime suspect in the Gilgo 4 murders of petite women found dead in the Ocean Parkway brush in 2010, very close to the Jones Beach Exchange. 3 of the women were bound with burlap. Some other victims on this stretch of road were dismembered.
A serial killer can vary the way they do things. There's no rule that serial killers have to do things the same way every time.
We reached out to a law enforcement official in Nassau County who said he would check on the Vargas murder. We also asked Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney if his office had been receiving tips about women left near parkways since Heuermann's arrest.
We received tips on, in all cases at all times, but we maintain the confidentiality of the investigation.
Carmen Vargas's niece said serial killer Joel Rifkin was interviewed in 1993 about the murder, but he refused to take responsibility after confessing to killing many other women.
Joel Rifkin said, "That's not me, that's not my work, that's not my victim." But we thought it was him, so we let it die for all these years.
But now, the victim's niece feels compelled to learn the truth.
My mother died with this. And my mother was my everything. She was heartbroken, she was depressed, she went into using drugs. I have a gut feeling like it's really him.
Our thanks to WPIX for that. Police are still investigating any possible connections between Carmen Vargas and Rex Heuermann, who, by the way, is still awaiting trial at Riverhead Correctional Facility in Suffolk County, New York, while Joel Rifkin is serving a 203-year sentence at the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York. Still to come, we do a lot of stories about Ubers and other ride shares on this show, specifically the long-suffering drivers who put up with way more than they should from the backseat. Sometimes the drivers are assaulted or worse. Often they just suffer through the abuse. But wait until you see how one driver decided to resolve her differences with the passengers behind her.
Get out of my vehicle right now.
She got them crazy eyes.
Get out!
Whoa, and we've got the full video next. The next time you want to tell a rideshare driver to take the next left, I'm not saying don't do it, but you just never know the reaction you might get. A Florida woman didn't think twice about pointing out the next turn to her Uber driver the other night, and that night took a crazy turn. Chrissy Celeste, a rapper who performs under the name Bomb Ass Chrissy, says that she and her friend were ordered out of their Uber and that the driver called 911 on them. That's when Chrissy pulled out her phone and started recording. Now, to be fair, we really don't know what exactly happened in the backseat prior to the driver calling 911 and ordering them out, but here's what happened next.
Okay, ma'am, what's the address? Get out of my vehicle right now.
She got them crazy eyes.
Get out!
Oh.
Get out!
Ooh.
Get out of my
want to do
vehicle.
it anyway.
She wants to.
Anyways. She wants to.
Passengers say they plan to sue Uber. We will keep track. Cuomo's next.